When I was first given this assignment, I had no idea what to do. But then Coach Jones gave the seniors a challenge. What message do we want to leave our school with? When I heard his challenge, I realized I had never told anyone my testimony before. I have grown up in the church and I come from a family of pastors. My sister actually wants to be a doctor and a pastor. That's not what I want to do, though. If you know my family, then you would have noticed that I am very different from the rest of them. My family is all very extroverted, and I'm an introvert. I love to draw and am very artsy. When we would be in church on Sunday, my dad would, of course, be on stage. My mom and sister would also sometimes be on stage praying over people. And my sister also plays the piano for the worship team. I would be in the crowd and kind of feel like, now what do I do? I felt like I wasn't really impacting people like they were. I was in the crowd feeling like God couldn't use me because I wasn't on a stage. I also felt like they were the ones who were constantly hearing God. It was almost like they were in this super secret club with God that they weren't telling me about. I didn't understand why it seemed like God only talked to them instead of me. Was I broken? Was I not praying hard enough? Why won't God talk to me? I was trying to hear him, but God seemed to be mute. It was like how some people say they're going through a dry season in their faith. Except it was like I was going through a dry 16 years. It almost felt like I was living in a bubble, and I was watching everyone around me experience and hear God. The only other way I know how to explain my experience is this. Imagine you're at a concert with your friends and family. You can see that they are all experiencing something so amazing, and they're all talking about how amazing the concert is. You see all of this happening around you, and you so desperately want to experience it too. But it's almost like you're in a soundproof bubble, and no matter how hard you try, you can't hear what they're hearing or feel what they're feeling. You are still stuck in your little soundproof bubble. November of 2017, my family was on a ministry trip, and as usual, I was still stuck in my bubble, and God was still silent, or so I thought. That entire trip, different things would happen where I would get separated from my family. Not like I would get lost in a crowd, but when we were walking, there would only be room for the three of them on the sidewalk, and I would end up walking behind or in front of them. Other times we would go out to eat with friends, and I would end up on the other side of the table from my mom, dad, and sister. I began to notice this happening, so I pointed it out to my dad. He told me that maybe God was trying to tell me something. But after 16 years of what seemed like only hearing God maybe 4 times, it seemed impossible that God was trying to talk to me. But it turns out, he was. I don't remember how it happened exactly, but I do remember that we were in the middle of worship. I had this moment where I suddenly heard God talking to me. It was amazing. It was like my soundproof bubble had been popped. I could finally experience the concert that I had watched everyone else get to experience for the past 16 years of my life. I heard and felt everything around me in a completely different way. Even the music sounded different. In that moment, God was telling me that I needed to stop comparing myself to my family. He created me for my own purpose, and I should be comfortable in who He created me to be. I had been comparing my family's speaking gifts with my artistic gifts, thinking that I couldn't impact people with my art. I realized that when I stepped into who God created me to be and I was comfortable with it, I found who I was in Him. This journey hasn't been easy. I still battle the spirit of comparison in my life. But when I catch myself comparing my gifts with other people's gifts, I remind myself of the 4 words that God spoke to me that night that will forever define my life. Those words were, stay in your lane.